All right, everybody. Good morning. We have made it to the next major date on the NFL offseason calendar. It is February the 20th, which is the first day where teams can start utilizing the franchise tag. And I've talked about this a little bit before, but it bears repeating, and it also bears further elaboration. Not just what the Seahawks might do with their franchise tag, but what other teams might do with their franchise tag that affects the Seattle Seahawks. So let's take a look at some stuff regarding the franchise tag as it pertains to the Seahawks. You can see this tweet a couple days ago from Schefter outlining the way in which the franchise tag window works. It starts today, goes through March 5th, so it's not even 2 weeks. So these teams are going to make some decisions pretty quickly here. Basically, during that window, teams can utilize their franchise tag. For those of you who maybe are a little unfamiliar with the franchise tag, basically every team has one franchise tag they can choose to use each offseason where they can put it on a player that is about to become a free agent, and it basically locks that player into a 1-year deal worth the average of the top 5 players at their position, and the player cannot refuse it, the player cannot get out of it. The player is locked into that 1-year deal, fully guaranteed for that 1 year, or they can attempt to negotiate their way out of it by either a trade or a long-term extension. So, understand, neither side really wants the franchise tag to be used, but it is a way for these NFL teams to gain leverage. So, they will often threaten to use it or temporarily use it, knowing that they're ultimately not going to actually let it go through. Because nothing sucks more than utilizing a franchise tag, having that franchise tag go into the season, and then being stuck with this massive cap hit that you cannot do anything with. If you use the franchise tag, you can't push that cap hit out into future years. It's just one massive cap hit for one season. A lot of teams can't even handle that. And the teams that can don't want to. And the player doesn't really like it either because there's no long-term security. They get hurt, they break their leg, they break their shoulder, they tear an Achilles. Boom. Where's their long-term money? It's not here. They're not getting it. They're just back out on the market next year hoping that they can get money from somewhere else, but they know it's probably going to be less. So, franchise tag's not fun for anybody, but let's take a look here. Schefter lists out some players that are going to be potentially getting the franchise tag. He's got 12 players here. You may notice that Leonard Williams is not listed, and there's a good reason for that. Brady Henderson kind of outlines it here in this quote retweet of Schefter's tweet. Using the franchise tag on Leonard Williams would be prohibitively expensive. Now, it would be expensive anyway. If we go to the franchise tag tender amounts, you can see that a defensive lineman costs about $21 million with the franchise tag, so that's a lot. Defensive ends, by the way, are $20 million, so no matter how you look at it, it's going to be a lot, right? Regardless of how you look at Leonard Williams, be it a tackle or an edge, it's still about $21 million. However, you can see that because he has had the franchise tag utilized on him already twice in the past, 2020, 2021, a third franchise tag would be even more. And according to Brady Henderson, it would be almost double, $36 million. Now, my understanding was that the number wasn't quite that high. I thought it would be more like a 20% bump for each time you use the tag. But Brady Henderson probably got this right, so there's probably some additional kicker that I don't even know about. So $36 million, I mean, very few players are worth that. The players that are worth that are pretty much all quarterbacks, right? So if you're not a quarterback, you're not going to be worth the $36 million. Even a guy as good as Leonard Williams, that's just not going to work. So we can't really use the franchise tag on Leonard Williams. Understand that, which is a problem for our leverage, but these are the problems that we knew we were going to take on when we traded for him in the first place, so there had better be a plan in place. If you weren't prepared for this, then, well, admittedly, we do have a new coaching staff in town, but we still have the same general manager, so Schneider should have known about this, and hopefully he's got a plan in place. But yeah, Leonard Williams, probably not a candidate for the tag. You take a look at the values of these franchise tags. The only guy that is really worth conversing about in terms of maybe throwing the tag on would be Jordan Brooks. And the linebacker tag is almost $23 million. So I don't think that you want to put that kind of a tag on Jordan Brooks. Even the people who think he's a really good linebacker, and they do exist. I'm not really one of them. I think he could be really good, maybe with Mike McDonald. But even if he is, I doubt he's worth this. You know, the people who really like Jordan Brooks are on board with maybe giving him $18 million a year, which, I mean, I'm not really on board with that, to be honest, but that's still more. So I don't see us giving the tag to Damian Lewis and giving him $20 million for 1 year. That's not really. I mean, I think Damian Lewis would jump at the chance to make $20 million for 1 year, even if there's no long-term security. We don't really have any receivers or edges to consider giving the tag to. We don't have any outgoing safeties here. All the safeties we have are still under contract for the moment. Yeah, I mean, we could, I guess, put the tag on Noah Fant for $12 million. Like, that's not completely ridiculous, because I think he's going to get like $13 million a year on the open market. But I seriously doubt we do that, because again, the reason why you want to give these guys multi-year deals is because you can push the cap hit out. You re-sign Fant, $13 million per, but that first year cap hit could be like 6.5. Could be 6, could be 5 if you really wanted it to be. Not 12. So it's still definitely something that you're going to try to avoid. So if I had to pick one guy who gets tagged for the Seahawks, it would probably be Fant. And that would require us having an offensive coordinator that is just like, oh, I'm going to make this guy a 1,000-yard receiver. I am going to use him like he's never been used before. I'm going to get the most out of him. This guy is super talented. Kind of like what you saw with Evan Ingram when he went to Jacksonville. And I just don't think that's the case. So probably not going to use it ourselves. Maybe we put it over the head of Jordan Brooks as like a threat. But again, how good is a threat when it's still $23 million, which is a lot more than he would get on a per-year basis on a long-term deal. Maybe Brooks would be willing to, you know, roll the dice with that. Just say, okay, I'll be a free agent next year. Now, like I said, there are going to be other players that get tagged or potentially get tagged, and Schefter does a pretty good job of listing out a lot of the big ones here. Now, how might the franchise tag being utilized affect the Seattle Seahawks? You look at these players, not necessarily a lot. I don't see a lot here that I'm jumping on. Like, I'm not getting a running back. I'm not going to get some kind of a wide receiver or a cornerback. I'm not going to pay big bucks for the cream of the crop at those positions. Like, maybe a guy like a Josh Allen, but I think we're fine at edge. I don't think that's really going to be something that takes something off the market that I really wanted. I don't want to spend big. We need safeties, but I don't want to spend big on a free agent safety like Antoine Winfield. Maybe the big impact here for the Seahawks would be a guy like Madubuike or Christian Wilkins, interior defensive linemen that are really good. They might see the tag, but then again, we got to deal with our Leonard Williams thing first. So there might not be money to bring in another big-time defensive lineman. Then we might just be, okay, we're rolling with Leonard Williams, and otherwise we kind of have to go cheap here because Leonard Williams is going to cost a lot. Like, do we want to let Leonard Williams go and then go get somebody like a Madubuike or a Christian Wilkins? I don't know. That's tough. They're certainly younger, but I mean, in the case of Madubuike, he might be kind of a flash in the pan here. He was not a great player until recently. Now, Wilkins is different. Wilkins is really, really good. Wilkins is a very special player, but I just wonder if the money would be there in the first place. And CBS did this article where they go through each team and talk about their tag candidates, and they do have Madubuike. To me, the more interesting guy might be Patrick Queen, because the linebacker tag would be a little bit more than he's probably going to get on the open market. Not by that much, though. So the tag may come into play with Patrick Queen, and that could very well upset our offseason plans, because a lot of people, and I do think it's reasonable, think that Patrick Queen might be part of the plan here in Seattle because Mike McDonald likes him so much. So that's definitely, I think, maybe even more compelling of a thought than Madubuike. Brian Burns, I don't know if he'd be a fit for the defense. Jalen Johnson, no. T. Higgins, no. Tony Pollard, definitely not. So you can see that a guy like a Dalton Schultz is listed as a candidate. He was a guy I talked about at length the other day. If you want a veteran tight end from outside the team, Dalton Schultz has been extremely productive over the last 4 years and would be a guy that you bring in and you could feel good about him being your top tight end for 3, 4 years potentially. That's somebody who the Seahawks might have some degree of interest in. But again, we have to ask ourselves, what is this offense going to be doing with their tight ends? Is this offense just going to use tight ends as an afterthought and focus on the receivers because of what we saw from Grubb at UW, and also given the fact that we have these great receivers in the house already? Michael Pittman Jr., no. Josh Allen, I don't think so. L'Jarius Sneed, I don't think we're spending big money on a cornerback right now. There's just no need to. Austin Eckler, absolutely not. And by the way, I can't believe the Chargers would actually tag a guy like that. Christian Wilkins, Kirk Cousins, no. Saquon Barkley, absolutely not. One of the more overrated players in the league, I think. Sorry if you can hear my dog. This article, by the way, does list Leonard Williams in the Seahawks section, but I don't think they know about the kicker that applies because it's the third year of him getting tagged. You've got Mike Evans as well. I like Mike Evans a lot, but that doesn't really make any sense to me. And you can kind of see that the effect on the Seahawks the tag might have is kind of minimal. I don't expect us to get a primo free agent this offseason anyway, but only a couple guys the Seahawks might be interested in are likely to be taken off the market by the tag. Matabuke, Queen, Wilkins, and maybe one or two other sleepers. So I don't think the tag is going to play a big role in our offseason, but what do you guys think? Do you guys think that maybe we threaten it? Maybe we use it as leverage? It's possible. Of course it's possible. So let me know what you guys are feeling about this, and I will talk to you guys more later. Go Hawks.